If you didn't already know, this is this season's Dr. Light episode.
And why the hell do we have to have a Dr. Light episode anyway?
Tradition? Well, actually, this started with season 2 of the revival when the BBC wanted more episodes but didn't increase the budget. So the producers at the time came up with the idea of an adventure focused on some other characters, with the Doctor only being involved on the periphery.
And it's led to some of the best episodes of the series, like Blink and Turn Left, but also some of the direst, like Love and Monsters. I thought we'd agreed never to talk about that one. Thing is, Dr. Light episodes were done as a cost-saving measure, and when you have between 13 and 16 episodes a season, you can certainly afford a Dr. Light one. But not when you only have 8. Last season, 25% of Doctor Who was actually a Dr. Light show. That's absurd. And for some reason, we've now got another one.
And it all starts on New Year's Eve 2007, when a kid named Conrad Clark sees the Doctor coming out of his box and his life is forever altered.
Hold on. So you've got a character who sees the box once and becomes obsessed with it, creating a podcast and looking for others who also experience the same thing. Sounds like Love and Monsters to me. Okay, unpopular opinion, but that part of Love and Monsters where people meet up, chat about the blue box, and slowly their group changes over time to be more about friendship than the Doctor was a pretty good story.
It's what happened beyond that that's best forgotten. And here, in contrast, we actually have a very well-crafted story.
So more Turn Left and Blink than Love and Monsters?
It's actually its own thing, but I'll say this. It's definitely one of the better ones. One whose twist took me completely by surprise.
Oh, we're heading into spoiler territory?
I think that's completely unavoidable, but before we do, if you don't want to know what happens, go watch it, then come back for the rest of this combo. I think you'll agree, it's a very good episode. Okay, so the first half of the story actually follows the plot of Love and Monsters.
And you say it's a good episode? Sheesh!
Just hear me out. Just like Elton looks for people whose paths had crossed the Doctor's and eventually meets and befriends Jackie, Rose's mom, here Conrad eventually looks for and meets Ruby, and a friendship and burgeoning romance ensues.
It's actually an interesting focus on the companion that was left behind, and how they struggle to reintegrate into society after the intensely mad adventures they had with the Doctor.
Exactly, and that part was surprisingly interesting and very watchable. And then there's the event with the Shriek, a creature who marks their prey and hunts them a year later. Unless you've taken an antidote. And it's when we realize Conrad tried to play the hero for Ruby and didn't take it, that this feels like the episode is taking a very predictable turn, with monsters on the loose eating Conrad's friends as they slowly focus on him.
And then it all changes.
I totally didn't see that twist coming. First, we have a loving boyfriend trying to be brave and all by admitting he didn't take the antidote.
Which is pretty standard story fare.
True, and there was nothing remarkable about that, just a run-of-the-mill event for a Doctor Who story.
Until it wasn't.
Exactly. Kate of Unit suspects something is wrong and sends the troops to help Ruby and her boyfriend in his little out-of-the-way English village, until they realize it was all a scam and everything takes a turn for the worst.
You know, sometimes I groan when family entertainment takes a political turn. But you know what? With the way the world is, how you can't trust anything anymore, how emotions and feelings trump facts and evidence, I thought this was damn well executed. It's like current reality morphed into this little fantasy story.
Well, it's not like it said anything new.
It didn't, but we as the audience know what the truth is, that in the Doctor Who reality, monsters are real and Unit fights to keep us safe. So our grounding in what the truth is should be firm. And then we see how Conrad twists everything to make everything look like a scam that he's bravely exposing. He's the only one who knows the truth, and he's exposing it for others to see. And for his swelling bank balance, it's always about following the money mouse. These wannabe authoritarians always claim to fight for others, when it's only ever about themselves. As was pretty clear here, even when exposed to the truth, he still denies it. And he'll likely deny it until the day he dies. This is a post-truth world, and it was accidentally recreated in the second half of this show.
Would you have done what Kate did?
Buddy, I wouldn't have stopped the Shriek myself.
I found this episode to be the best of Chuti's run, even though Chuti was barely in it. The story, the focus on Ruby's obvious PTSD.
Traveling with the Doctor is definitely hazardous to your mental health.
The sudden twist with the attack in the village.
Followed by an even bigger twist shortly after.
And Conrad's determination to believe his own lies over the obvious truth, even when the cameras aren't rolling.
Delusional to the end.
Speaking of the end, what do you think of Mrs. Flood?
Bored now.
It worked better with Susan Twist than the previous season. That mystery was intriguing, even though the resolution was such a letdown. Here, like McCluck, I can't help but be bored. At this point in time, Mrs. Flood should be Ruby's neighbor. What is she doing as the governor of the prison?
Maybe there's more than one Mrs. Flood?
I wonder if she's the boss that the Meep mentioned in the Star Beast.
Does anyone care anymore?
They dragged that mystery on for too long, and now it's just white noise you tune out, which may be a problem for the season's finale. However, those last couple of minutes aside, this was an excellent story.
One that wasn't written by RTD.
Shows that a fresh writer can definitely bring something new. These were our thoughts on Doctor Who's Lucky Day. Do let us know what you think in the comments. And if you like what we do,
and how we do it,
and you feel you'd like to help us out,
please consider joining our Patreon.
As long as you can afford it, of course.
We'll leave a link in the description and pinned comment.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.